Hello and welcome to my show Conversation with Priya. I'm your host Priya Mishra today. We have a very special guest today, Pankaj Jain. I'm introducing him from the UTS University, India. Many people understand from Australian audience point of view. We are one of the larger university and our best university campus in Sydney. People prefer going, and especially when they are in the technology area. But in this frame he has 28 years of experience consulting marketing and sales in international educational industry and telecom. With 22 years of international education consulting and student recruitment, he worked as a director of Career Plus Service and educational consulting company that focuses on institutional partnership for foreign university. Pankaj also managed the University of Leeds South Asia office as a management consultant from 2009 to 2012. Presently, he works as a regional director at India subcontinent for UTS College, earlier known as UTS in Search. He is the head of the UTS College South Asia office, which takes care of India, Nepal, Bangladesh, Sri Lanka, Bhutan, and Mauritius. UTS College is pathway provider to University of Technology Sydney, where it has team of 9 members. So, help me to welcome today Pankaj Jain.
Thank you. Thank you. Pleasure to be here.
Thank you for joining in. It's honor and pleasure to welcome you here. See, it's a very interesting journey I have seen. You've been spent. You travel a lot. You are a part of Canada and UK and other part of the world. You have traveled. How this whole concept started that you're gonna stick to the UTS college in Delhi?
Basically, the journey has been long, as you told. It has been 28 years of work. I am an engineer by background. I am a telecom engineer. So I worked in telecom companies in Bombay. I was in Gujarat. I was in Delhi. Then I got a scholarship to do my MBA at University of Leeds, so in UK. So I went to do my scholarship there. After that, I worked again for Alcatel Telecom for 2 years, and then again for Tata Telecom. Then University of Leeds, UK, where I studied my MBA, they approached me to start their India office.
Yeah,
So I started the India office in 1999. So it
yeah.
was a long journey, starting with 40 students. We worked with them for 11 years. So till 2009, we had 450 students, which was a big number. It was a proper office with around 15 to 18 people at one point of time. And we looked after the same India, Sri Lanka, Bangladesh, Nepal, Bhutan, all 5, 6 countries. And then I moved out of 2009. So I became a management consultant to the university, but the office was still running. So for 3 years, I ran the office. At that time, I started my own consultancy, Career Plus Services, where we were sending students to UK, Canada, Ireland, New Zealand, Australia, US, Europe also. So that I ran for 10 years. And last year, University of Technology Sydney College, UTS College, had approached
Yeah.
me, and I joined them in February 2020 as the regional director for South Asia. This was a new position which was created. We have an office in Delhi where we handle countries like India, Nepal, Bangladesh, Sri Lanka, Mauritius, and this is like we are a pathway provider, as you told. That University of Technology is the main university where we send students, but
Yeah.
they study 1 year with us, like diplomas, and then they graduate and top up to UTS University. So the journey has been long, a lot of learning, a lot of experience, working with 3, 4 companies, working with different type of bosses. Earlier were UK bosses, then there were mixed bosses. Now we have Australian university. So obviously learning is on, still on, I would
Yeah.
say.
Very interesting. According to your bio, you have experience in a variety of business discipline. What has been the most difficult challenges you have tackled thus far in your career and what you have learned from it?
I think in India, like since the office has been in India for Leeds also by Tata Telecom, also Alcatel, I think what I learned during the last 28 years, the toughest part is managing the people
Yeah.
because expectation of staff is very high. Gone are the days when staff are very committed, very loyal to you. They would work extra hours without asking anything. They have to complete the work. These days, the younger staff is very hooked on to WhatsApp and YouTube and chat messages and Instagram. So the commitment is less. They don't want to work more, but they still want salaries higher. So
Yeah.
every year, if you don't increase their salaries by 10 or 15%, they will not be happy with you and they will be searching for a job. So earlier, there were people who worked with you for 8 years, 10 years, 12 years, 15 years. Now those golden days are gone. And though we say in India, the Prime Minister says that the country is very young and we have so much 65% younger population, but I think aspirations of people have become very money oriented. So it
Hmm.
is less commitment, less responsibility, but higher salaries.
Yeah.
So this was the toughest part which I learned during my last 28 years, that how to manage people, how to keep them happy.
Yeah.
Salary is one thing, but still they should be happy. They should be laughable. They should enjoy your work.
Yeah.
Because if they're not enjoying your work, they will look for a job in the next 2 months or 3 months. So the CV
Right.
will be floating in the market on the job portal. So I think managing people is the first challenge, and it will be the challenge in the next 10 years for India also.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, preparing the workforce for the world is one of the largest challenge India is facing. Yes, we are a youngest country. Yes, we have people from 68% under 42 years of old
Very
people,
good.
very young country, and very highly educated society as well, no doubt about it.
Right.
Education is must in our country, which is we are very proud of it, but at the same time preparing them for a workforce is becoming harder and harder and challengeable. And I feel like it's a part of is a part of due to the course curriculum we have prepared. So I heard there are new policy changes and all is happening. Do you think it's gonna change the workforce mindset?
Right.
Yeah, will it change the
Yeah.
mindset? Yeah.
Sorry, I missed the question. Sorry.
Okay. See, when there are a lot of policy changing is happening, do you think it will
Right.
change the youth mindset, and it be any helpful the way government is coming up with the new policy in the education system? Will it change anyways?
Right. Yeah.
Yeah.
Like the government had introduced the new education policy, which is called NEP 2020,
Yeah.
in which their government is trying to push a lot of things like they should have internships into their curriculum. There will be credit-based system, so you can do 5 modules in India, you can do 5 modules in Canada, you can do 5 modules in Australia, and still get credit backs and all. There is a lot of focus on skill development. There's a lot of focus on entrepreneurship also, and obviously there's a focus on hard skills as well as soft skills. So hard skills are your technical skills, computing skills, game skills, but soft skills are personality, teamwork, uh, interpersonal skills. So government is trying to do a lot of things, and there are a lot of activities happening. Government is trying, a lot of colleges, a lot of private universities, a lot of government universities are trying to do activities.
Yeah.
Now it is for the general youth to say that okay, we are ready for it. So that
Yeah.
is the gap I think there is, that government is trying to do anything, but till it resonates with the young people that it is being done for our benefit, these
Right.
things will not happen.
Right.
So it should not happen that the students think that this is part of the course and the curriculum. We have to just do because you have to get marks and pass it out.
Right.
But they should internally think that it is for our benefit, because this will be helping us to make us job ready. So
Right.
like these days, a lot of courses have come on Udemy, Coursera, LinkedIn Learning, and other places where you do a short-term 1 month, 2 month, 3 month courses,
Yeah.
which are teaching you a lot of things which are available. But it is for students and their parents to ask their students to also study, read online. And there is
Right.
COVID time, so there's a lot of time actually to spare to enhance your skills in IT also, AI also, games technology also, Python
Yeah.
also. So I think it's parents have to push the kids, because India is still a very parent pushing, parent dominated country, where what the parents say the students do. Those students have become very dependent these days. But still,
Yeah.
as of now, still parents will guide students.
Sure, sure. And it is very much social influence is required towards the parents to adopt the system we are trying to adopt it. So it's a huge shift is required in terms of that. Having said that, COVID-19 produced significant changes in the way we do business. There was a remarkable shift in marketing, messaging that occurred. What influence has it had on your whole overall UTS point of view? How university has been changed? I know it's a pathway to go to the international university. Now, how has it helped the provide better result in times of crisis?
Basically, what UTS College has done in the last 1.5 year, I would say, depending on COVID. So our managing director, Mr. Alex Murphy, has, and my immediate boss, Peter Harris, who's the chief officer, partnerships and growth. They
Yeah.
have been very supportive of us for South Asia, because India Sri Lanka, Bangladesh, Nepal, which are four major countries which are affected. And I would say across the world, actually, for all the international countries, because
Yeah.
we get students from Indonesia, China, other countries. So we have recently changed the marketing strategy that we have to go to the customer, we have to help them. So there are online classes happening. The similarly, like a lot of time zones have been allowed that students can study at different time zones. There is flexibility in the fees also. There are scholarships which have been announced, so students are able to get scholarships up to $8,000 Australian dollars.
Yeah.
And we have uh, a lot of support at the Sydney level also, which is supporting the online classes because students are coming from different countries. So smaller groups have been formed. They are helping peer information. They can have that IT support 24 hours. So a lot of things UTS College has done in terms of supporting students. From the budget and the marketing perspective, obviously we have shifted from a traditional teaching point of view, which was physical and in the classes, to an online classroom. So obviously
Yeah.
it took a lot of time for the teachers to shift, but the pandemic was there, so you had to shift. There was no choice. So a
Right.
lot of learning happened, a lot of things happened. We are developing a new integrated learning model also to come next year. So
Mhm.
where the some part of teaching will be 40-60 sort of thing, or 30-70. In India also, for example, UGC has planned that from next year there will be 40% option to do online classes and 60% will be physical classes. So the world has changed, innovation has come in, entrepreneurship has come in. So those are things we have become resilient. Our teams have become resilient. We are customer friendly. Whatever the students are wanting, that some students, if they have not been able to complete or they are missing the lectures are uploaded, they can see the lectures later on. So the
Yeah.
technology has helped what we are offering to students, and we have, as UTS College, have evolved and learned that students these days across the world are sitting in different time zones. So we have to help students because learning online is not easy, because
Right.
you are missing the teacher, you're not missing your friends, you're missing the library, you're missing the social clubs, you're missing the city.
Mm.
So you're sitting at home and reading and online. The computers are very boring at times, so you get very bored whole day sitting on computer or whatever 3-4 hours the class you
Yeah.
are.
Yeah. Yeah. People are actually psychological impact is very high due to stay at home scenario. Definitely it is impacting overall socio understanding and social relationship point of view. EQ is actually on a stack. But when we say when how we are seeing this the economy going and how it is gonna reflect into the your education industry as a overall in education industry, how do you see the growth in coming years and how long it will take to catch up given the scenario we have been facing, and of course education is also impacted heavily.
Yeah, actually, like if you see the education as per Australian government is the fourth biggest GDP earner for the economy, right? Even yesterday there was an article in media. So the number of students going to Australia has been reduced, obviously because the borders are closed. As of now, the government is saying that we will look into it when the borders open. So there's a lot of speculation when the borders will open. So
Yeah.
obviously, student traffic to Australia has been affected across the world. The students are only studying online classes because borders are not allowed, so flights are not allowed. Recently, the government of South Australia started a pilot project which was allowing roughly 300 students. New South Wales has a pilot project to start with 500 students,
Yeah.
and ACT also has a pilot project. So government is trying to do everything, but obviously you have to take care of your local population also. You have to take care of Australian citizens also. Vaccination is very important because so there is flexibility that students will come, they will quarantine in some facilities for 10 days. The university will bear and the students will bear the flight cost and the quarantine facilities. In New South Wales, a new location has been developed in Sydney, which has a lot of provisions to take care of quarantine. So the numbers are less, but Australia as a destination has been very popular. It is among the top 2-3 countries where students go, and it has been there for the last 20 years.
Yeah.
So Sydney, Melbourne are popular as a destination as a thing. So students are still keen because you have an advantage in Australia that if you study for 2 years, you get 2 years post-study work permit, and then you can continue your stay and extend to a permanent residency also. So that is one advantage, and a lot of people have close relatives, close friends, or neighbors, or seniors staying in Sydney, Melbourne, and other Perth and
Yeah.
Adelaide city. So there is a natural push to go to these countries because it's a small like it's a big country, but we're very small population of 2.5 crores, which is
Yeah.
as compared to India, 135 crores is very small. So I think it's a good cities. Like I've been to Sydney in 2013. I was there last February. So these are good cities, nice places to stay. And I think students are still studying online with the option that the moment they get the borders open, they are applying for visas. They can study online. Universities have slightly relaxed the IELTS requirements. The High Commission is saying that we will give visas faster to students, so they are ready the moment the borders open. They can fly to Australia and continue their studies. So I think a lot of support is there by the universities, by the High Commission, and students and the partners, the agents we are working on. So everybody is trying, and let's see when the borders open. So we'll have students flying into Australia.
Yeah, I mean, it's one of the largest industry for Australia. Education is, especially for the Victorian economy. Uh, I mean, of course, Sydney is also popular, but Victoria is one our education hub. So,
Yes,
uh, we had been actually held on that industry. It's kind of a big economic impact for Australians,
yes,
and considering we can't wait for to see things open and people start flowing as much as they are waiting. I think Australian economy is equally waiting that to happen, so
right, right.
having said that, how do you handle explore transactional education being one of your main responsibility, and how it's gonna impact the future given the current scenario?
Like TNE, which is called Transnational Education, is a very important component of our strategy for UTS College, as
Right.
well as for UTS South Asia office. So we are very active in TNE. We have a setup in Indonesia. We have a setup in China. We have our own campus in Sri Lanka in Colombo, which is
Okay.
offering the foundation and diploma programs as well as English. We are
Right.
trying to develop some partnerships in Bangladesh, which we will be announcing very soon. And also, we are exploring similar things in India as well as Nepal also, which are the two countries which are left. So we are
Yeah.
talking to some partners. So in TNE, what we do is we deliver the first year of our UTS program at diplomas at the local TNE partner in the country. And the second year, the student flies to be at the University of Technology, Sydney, and then the third year. If he
Right.
does foundation, then he studied 2 years at the local country, and then he flies for 2 years.
Yeah.
So there is option. We are working on it. Sri Lanka is a big campus. Our own campus we opened last October 2019 before the COVID. So we
Yeah.
have students studying there. We are offering foundation. We are offering diploma, and we are offering academic English. So similar partners. We in Bangladesh we have decided on the university, and the agreement is being signed very soon. So we'll have students from Bangladesh also studying at a local TNE partner there. My immediate boss Peter Harris, he's an expert in TNE. He has been there in TNE for the last 20 years. So he's very keen that we should have similar models in other countries also where there is a possibility and then there are students. And because obviously in TNE, the advantage is that the first year fees is reduced to a local fees, which is, I would say, one-fourth or one-fifth of the fees
Yeah.
what we are charging Australia. So the
Yeah.
student stays in their home country, experiences the Australian style of teaching, experiences Australian style of studying also. The books are Australian, and so that he prepares by the time he comes into second year, he is used to a culture, so he doesn't get a cultural shock when he
Yeah.
immediately lands in Sydney or
Yeah.
any other or a city.
It's been a very, I mean, challenging for a lot of students. As you mentioned, cultural shock is a very big challenge for many students coming over, going any other country overseas. Education style is very different culturally. The
Right.
social impact is different. The behavioral impact is there. So it is very important to have that. I mean, I can see the importance of it and why people are thinking about that. Now, since we are coming to the end of this show, now that the pandemic continued to surge our economy and change the way we view education in this new normal, how does a team push through the growth and diversification in student recruitment?
How do you push the student recruitment? Sorry,
Yeah,
what did you say last?
I'm going to ask again. Now that the
Yeah.
pandemic continues to surge our economy and change the way we view education in the new normal, how does your team push through the growth and diversification in student recruitment?
Right. No, our South Asia team, we have members. So what we're trying to do is like we are trying to reach our partners and who are the main stakeholders who send students.
Yeah.
Besides the partners, we are also developing a strategy to directly target schools and colleges. So we are doing seminars in schools. We are trying to do tie-up with universities and colleges. So directly developing a stream of students also, so that besides the partners, we are also able to help students who want to come directly to UTS college.
Right.
So the strategy is like, as of now, we can't obviously travel we are not traveling in India. We have been in lockdown, working from home for last 1 year, 4 months. So our team does online seminars, online recruitment sessions. We attend some school fairs. We get students. So this has been the activity which has been on. So if, for example, our big partners have 30, 35, 40 offices. So our teams do 3 or 4 cities webinar together, train them. And if we get students, we counsel them. A lot of partners, which are agents, they also do education fairs. So our team participates in them and we convert students for us. And we are helping students to be flexible in terms like if they want to apply now, they can apply now. If they want to defer admission for next semester, because a lot of students still say that, please let us know when the borders will open. So we would like to start the studies like 6 months before that. We don't want to study 1 year before. So there's a lot of uncertainty when the borders will open. As for the government, they're saying it can be mid next year. Mid next year can mean from March, April, May, June, July. So a lot of speculation which month.
Yeah.
But the team is trying our best. So I've been telling my team that students are important, parents are important, our stakeholders, which are the partners, are important. We have to attend seminars, webinars with the Australian High Commission. For example, the Australian High Commission is doing a seminar, Australia Showcase, from I think 4th, 5th, 6th of August.
Yeah.
And our team is trying to see that we should be able to listen to them, listen to what the universities are saying. There are edtech firms also. So there's a lot of different things which have been happening since I've joined. So I'm trying to ask my team, listen to them, what ideas they have, and try to incorporate new ideas. My seniors are very supportive. Management at head office is very supportive, that whatever we think we can do for South Asian students and other countries also,
yeah,
we should try to help any new activities they want to do. Like we recently did a panel discussion last Thursday, which was attended by around 240 students from South Asia. We had around 800 registrations for that. So that is the first event. So we had 2 directors of schools in Delhi, 1 vice chancellor of university, and Peter Harris, our chief officer, partnerships and growth, participated. And the topic was future study options after the pandemic. So
right.
It was a 1-hour session, a very relevant topic, and the students are, and there were a lot of questions. Like we had so many questions we could not answer in 1 hour. So,
right. Very interesting. So thank you so much. It was really nice session with us. Thank you for joining in. We come to the end.
It's my pleasure. It's my pleasure.
So if people wants to find you, how can they find you?
I can give you my mobile number. It is very simple, 9810054035. I've got my email ID, which is Pankaj, PANKAJ.JAIN @UTS College, COLLEGE,
yep.
.edu.au for Australia. So it is pankaj.jain @UTScollege.edu.au. You're most welcome to contact me. I'm on Facebook also. I'm on LinkedIn also. Wherever I possible, I'll try to help and give the best option to you.
Thank you. It was a really interesting communication. I'm sure the people will get benefit out of it. All your details will be given on my description and people will not have to search. They can definitely copy and reach out to him. And he's very flexible and available. So feel free to ask your question. The team will be always ready to answer your question. Thank you so much for today. If you guys, audience, you haven't subscribed, like, share, or comment, please don't forget to do that. We will be bringing this kind of episode, interesting questions for you anytime at your door. Please don't forget to like, share, and comment. Thank you.
Sure. Thanks, Shana.
Thank you so much for watching this video. If you liked it, like, comment, and subscribe if you haven't already done it. To know more about us, visit www.corporality.global. And also you can find more about Priya Mishra is on priya.sydney.